All right. A few weeks ago, Dan came to me and asked if I would consider doing a short presentation on solar power and batteries. He knew I got into that a few years ago. It's an occasional hobby for me, and I've learned a lot, and I have not lost all my hair as a result of being shocked too often. But so yeah, of course I agreed and said I'd be happy to do it. In a short meeting like this, where I only have 2 or 3 hours to be able to talk, I'm just going to be able to scratch the surface on what we're getting into. But I am going to cover some of the highlights. And when we get to the end of it, this slide here where it says battery, solar power, and safety. Safety is a part that I think in my first year or two of messing with solar and electricity, that I just kind of followed the recipe the other guys were doing. I didn't pay much attention to the safety part. And recently, and you're going to see towards the end of this, a little clip of a fellow talking about safety that when I saw it a month or two ago, it really got my attention. And I think with us, with amps for our radios and power supplies and all the things that we mess with electricity, maybe it's something to pay attention to as well. So you guys ready? You want to get into it? Okay, so why did I get into solar? What got me into it? And the next slide right here will be something that most of us have experienced over our lifetime, would be power outages. Are y'all seeing, are the lights, should we try to kill this? Yeah, how do we do that?
One of these switches on the wall.
Is that okay? Okay, keep your hands to yourself. Anyway, power outages was something that we've all experienced. It's something that, some of us have been lucky, some have not been so lucky. And over the last decade or so, let me hang on a second. I keep hearing myself here. Let me, over the last decade of my family, we experienced some short things. Marianne and I, we have a day where we were down, maybe a couple days. So we were real fortunate. Our son, during the same storm where we were down for only a day, was down for 8 or 9 days. He lived in that part of Polk County where they look at the list of the most important, and he was on the last line, so his area. But it got me thinking, and as a dad, I've got 3 kids, I've got 4 granddaughters, and our home has always been kind of headquarters. If anything bad was going down, everybody was welcome to come and hang out. So power outages, and pay attention to the date there. I think it's September of 22, somewhere around there, and it'll make sense in a second. So here's my legal disclaimer to keep me out of trouble. So just understand, I am a hobbyist, a rookie, not formally trained, self-taught, still learning about electricity, solar power and its potential, the power and the dangers of it. The red line at the bottom. So do your own research, study, seek advice, and learn. Should you copy my examples and get injured or worse, you've been warned and you're on your own. Okay, so the month before that last chart that showed the power outages, I received my first power station. And we've all seen these and probably own a lot of them. But it was just great timing because it's a small little unit. It's not big at all. It's 700 and something watts. At the time, it was kind of touting its new battery technology, which we're all using now, the lithium iron phosphate battery. So it had a good battery in it. When that storm hit, we were down for a day. And I wish I could have found a photo. I know I have it. But at midnight.
2% now.
Huh?
2% now, so they go across screen.
Percent now?
You got to box it.
Okay. All right, bear with me, guys. I don't know what we're doing. So I hit play. So you want me to go
Present now.
I don't know where it says present now, but we'll see. Asking me if he means present now on see, Google Meets.
Who can do you now?
Hey, Dave, do you mean on Google Meets or do you mean in Keynote?
In Google Meets, turn on present now.
In Google Meets. Okay, so I'm in Google Meets right here. Where is present now? Okay, there we go. So you guys haven't seen anything yet, huh?
Yeah, but I got zoomed in on the camera.
No.
Okay, that's Memphis.
Oh, we do now. Now hit the play button.
Ask him if we're good. Hey, we're good?
Done. Thank you.
I'll give you a thumbs up.
Okay. Okay, so real quick, fortunately, we were only a few slides in for the viewing audience that was not getting what we were seeing. Again, why did I get into solar? We talked about power outages. That was the thing that got me into it. So this unit right here, it came in, and the evening that we lost power was our first chance to really use this. And you should have seen, you know, I had a kitchen table with grandbabies playing Monopoly. We had lights on, we had fans going. And they just thought it was the greatest camping trip ever. And this little guy did so much. It really kind of gave me the bug for learning more about this stuff. I knew it was small, but you know, this is something that you would take in your RV or take camping or to a QRP or whatever it is. These are the first panels I bought. This is a short little video that'll explain it, but these were the first two panels I bought for that Blue Edge. You know, it was only for that, and let's see, hopefully we can get it. Are we getting sound? Are we getting sound? I don't hear any sound here, do y'all? Okay. So okay. Right. So, huh? Sorry, guys.
He's a parallel. Basically.
About as far as setting it up. Boy, they. Hearing me one time's enough. So what I meant by that, and for you guys that know this stuff, you already know it, but the Blue Eddy, any of these devices, before you buy one, you have to look at what you can throw at it, what you can put in it. And you'll find that these things, like on the Blue Eddy, the port where you plug in the cord from the solar panels or your cigarette lighter adapter or whatever, it clearly says it can accept this much voltage to here. There's a range that it can safely take. And so it was tricky because you're buying panels, and the panels are rated, like these are rated for just over, I think, 21 volts or something. and about 5 amps or whatever. So you're playing around with it by putting it in series, and then it's actually in parallel and backwards. But anyway, kept the volts level, and it added the amp. So the Blue Eddy was fine. So, but those are the things that you have to pay attention to. Okay, so from the time that I bought the Blue Eddy, there's really been a great deal of explosion, and that's a bad term, but explosion of popularity and new items on the market. Anchor obviously is a company that we all have their battery packs and have for years. But Anchor decided to get into this market. EcoFlow is great. Jackery was around when I first bought my Blue Eddy, but it was still using the older, probably NiCad batteries or something. They hadn't switched over. But if you're looking for a power station, there's a lot out there to choose from. There's a lot of great technology, and they got them for little small things like my Blue Eddy to take a camping trip, or they've got units that can run a whole house now. I mean, they've got everything you can imagine in there. Prices are fairly competitive, and so anyway, that's some of the things there. But there's a lot more on the market now than there was when I got one 2 or 3 years ago. Okay, next step, feeling adventurous, build your own system. So that's where I was. That was my next step. I knew I wanted something larger, and I looked at the bigger systems that are out there. And if you've looked at this stuff or been on YouTube or whatever, there's some beautiful stuff out there. I mean, rack-mounted batteries and things for whole houses. I just wanted to see if I could build something and make it work. And so I started watching a lot of videos. I bought some books. I started looking into it. And this is what got Dan to ask me to come here, because about 1.5 years ago when I built this, I put up a few different videos and shared it with the clubs and said, hey, check this out. And over time, I've learned more and more about the technology, and the few little mistakes I made, I was able to correct it and get things going. This is in my office, and it's a perfect setup for someone that would have like an RV or something small. They want to run some 12 volt, don't need a ton of power. On the floor, I've got 2 100 amp hour batteries, the LiFo4 batteries there. Obviously, I can add more to it if I need to. On the top left-hand corner is a solar charge controller, okay? So the solar that you'll see the panels, I think on the next slide, the panels that I use for this system, I set it up when I need it, and I take it down. It takes me like 10 minutes to set up. I bring the frame out there, throw the panels on it. This is in my office, and I've got one of those MFJ window pass-through units there when I first got into ham radio. So my coax for my antennas for my radios has been there, and there were extra ports or extra connectors. I just unscrewed one and ran solar through one of them. So I've got solar connected up full time. At the bottom of the solar charge controller, the white thing that's about 8 or 10 inches down below it is just a breaker, okay? And I've got my wires coming in from outside. They run there, and they connect to the connectors at the window, and that's where it is. So if I hook up my panels, once the panels are set up and everything's connected outdoors, all I do is come in, hit that breaker, flip it up, and the sun starts shining indoors and start charging batteries. But for fun, as I was doing it, next to the solar charge controller, dead center at the top, is a fuse panel. It's just like we had in our cars when we were kids with the little blade fuses. And what's nice about that is it's all 12 volt, and I can pull any fuse or anything I want to do in there. So for about 1.5 years now, I have not turned on my power supply for my radios. I've got a 30 amp Samlex switching power supply, and I've been running off this. And you'll see at the very top, you'll see a black and a red 10 gauge wire that's connected to a 30 amp fuse. It runs from there, drops down, goes around the office to the other side. And underneath my desk, I have a Anderson power pole port, whatever you want to call it, screwed into one of the wooden legs under there. So I feed it with the power from this battery station here, and it works great. Runs my radios, it runs my the 710 from Yaesu, and it runs my mobile radios. I wasn't planning on putting an inverter on here, but on the right-hand side, there's a small little 1100 watt. And again, in my designs, I wasn't thinking inverter, and it just so happened as I was adding parts, there was some weird freaky sale that Amazon was doing, and I grabbed that for like 80 bucks. And I'm like, okay, I'll add an inverter. I'm glad I did though, because I can now plug extension cords into it, and I can run, the cords out of the office into the house and run TVs or run fans or anything else I need to do there. And on that same side where you plug the extension cords, there's, I think 2, maybe 4 USB ports. And I use that rascal. The inverter has a flat top on it. And I use it all the time to charge things. So I grab my little Anchor battery packs that I talked about, sit them there, plug them in, and they just charge right off this, So it's a neat little system. The rest of the stuff in the middle are fuses and breakers and things like that. The only other thing that I'll mention that you might know or might not know, just below the inverter on the right-hand side, there's kind of a bronze or gold color device. That's called a shunt, okay? And what a shunt does is it monitors the power in and out on your system. From what I've heard, the older battery technology, the lead acids and all of them, you could check the voltage and it was pretty spot on as far as the life of the battery, what's going on. With the new lithium iron phosphates, it's not accurate. It's not where it needs to be. So what the shunt does, once you get it in, you charge your batteries up full charge, get them all the way topped up. A little meter above that has the green display on it has buttons on there, so you just reset it and you say, hey, I've got 200 amp hours, we're at 100%, everything's good. From that point on, it's monitoring everything you're doing. So if you're charging or whatever. Anyway, that's my homebrew system, and I've really enjoyed it. It literally has never stopped running. It just runs like clockwork, and I usually the batteries, and again, as you know, on the lead acid, you really don't want to go below like 50% on the capacity of the batteries. Lithium, you can go all the way down to 0 if you want to, but I still don't do that. I'll let them go down, and when I look at that display and it's around 30 or 40%, I'm like, it's kind of time to charge it, and so I'll throw some panels outside. If the weather's bad, then I'll just take a charger, connect it to my batteries, and charge them up that way. Last thing on the charger there, when I bought, the first thing I did, I bought a 20 amp charger. It works great. I love it. But you're dealing with 200 amps. Okay. So if you do the math, you're looking at 10 hours. If it was completely dead, 10 hours to charge that baby up. If the grid's down, I don't want to go out there and plug it. If worst case, grid's down and we've got horrible storms, no sunshine, I can't put my panels out and my batteries are dying. I do have a gas generator as a backup. But I was like, man, I don't want to run my generator for 10 hours to charge this thing up. So about a month or 2 ago, I ordered a 50 amp charger, and that baby's a beast, but it will charge this thing up in 4 hours if it's dead. So if I have to run the generator, better to run it for 4 than it is for 10. How you like it? Pretty nice, huh? Yeah, man, go ahead.
What's the wire gauge required that goes to your, how long it runs?
Yeah, so you're talking about the wire gauge for the power?
How many radius?
Huh? Yeah, that's 10 gauge. Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty heavy, and yeah. And where I determined that, and you'll see it towards the end, there's a guy, if you've ever looked at solar stuff on YouTube, there's a young guy that I've been watching for 5, 6, 7 years, and he looked like a high school kid when I saw him the first time, Will Prowse. And I don't know, I don't think there's anyone smarter when it comes to batteries or solar than this young guy. He's amazing. Well, he's got a book that I bought. When I built that system, I ordered his book. And one of the things that really helped me, and it's helped me with ham radio also, and we've all seen these charts, but it's a chart that shows how much power you're trying to run and what distance are you going, and it'll drop down and it'll show you what gauge wire you really need. So building the solar thing, it really helped me. I won't get into it real long, but some of the wire in there is oversized for what I needed to do, but that's just my personality. I kind of go overboard on things. So
it keeps down on voltage.
The only place I couldn't go as large as I wanted to is you'll see the large gauge going from the, in the center of the box there and then going to the batteries. But the ports on the bottom of the solar charge controller, what are we doing?
Pointer.
The ports at the bottom right here, 10 gauge was as large as I could get in there. Okay, it wouldn't open up any bigger to put anything. So I had to go a little smaller than I wanted there, but I figured they knew what they were doing. Yeah, man.
Batteries on the bottom.
I mean, like if I'm powering things from the system, no, everything's coming from those batteries. So anything that I connect there, if I have my radios, I mean, I can have 10 things at one time. I can have both radios on at the same time, and it'll show on the display how many amps is pulling from those guys. I could have cell phone charging on there. I could have fans running. I could have an extension, and I've done all this stuff. Extension cord running to my family room, running the amplifier and subwoofers and TV and all that. So it'll run, but it's all pulling. The batteries is where the power is coming from. Yeah, on that. So anyway, these are the panels that I use for that system. Okay. Now, one of the things I did, I read and I listened to a lot of guys. They said it's really important to be careful not to mix panels from other manufacturers. It gets kind of wonky sometimes. They said if you end up with 3 or 4 panels of one manufacturer and you want to use 3 or 4 others, it's okay. You can do that. You can set them up as separate systems. So connect them all together, and then you can do the output on those and bring them in together. So there's a way to do it. When I bought the first 2 panels that you saw earlier for the Blue Eddy, just to be safe in case I wanted to connect them all together or grow something, all the panels are from that manufacturer. It's the same ones, and they're small. They're only 100 watts. Now if I was to do it again, I'd probably do 200 or 400 watt panels and all that. But that's for another project. But these are the 4 panels here. I built the wooden frame. Everything's adjustable. And what's really neat about it is if these were mounted to a house, which I'd love to have that someday, but if panels were mounted, you figure out what's the sweet spot. Okay, I need to be at 30 degrees. I need to be facing this way. But obviously the sun's moving, so there's a little bit you're getting in the morning, and it hits that sweet spot, and then it moves on. In a grid down situation, I can move this rack and follow the sun. So if I'm desperate for juice and I want to charge things up, that right now that's pointing almost east in my backyard, and I can go out there every couple hours, and it takes like 1 second just to move it to line back up to the sun, and so you're getting more power as you're throughout the day. Like if you really wanted to charge batteries and you needed to, you could do that. The one thing I want to show you here, the way I have this set up, and it's back to your question as far as the wire size and different things like that. I wanted to run as light of a wire from my panels into my shack as I could. So I needed to keep the amps down, okay? And so what I did, these are all connected. So what you're looking at, this third paragraph here in black, the way it's set up right now, I'm running, it's 72.6 volts combined on this 4 panels, but the amps stay at 5.51. So when it's leaving this and it's going into the house, I can run a 10 gauge wire from there to the window on my shack, and I'm okay. If I did it the other way around and I added the amps up, well, then I would have had to go to a higher gauge wire, thicker gauge wire to safely be able to do that. So that's the way I have it currently set up. It doesn't matter to the solar charge controller. When that gets to the controller, it looks at it and says, oh, I've got so many volts, I got so many amps. What can I do with it? And it does the math. It does everything for you. Okay, volts and amps. So this, I kind of talked about this at the beginning as far as safety. After this slide, there's a short little video. It's only about a 1-minute clip, maybe somewhere around there. But this is Will Prowse, is from his YouTube channel. and either something's happened or whatever. But he's done 2 videos in the last month and a half on safety, and I've watched him for years, and I've never heard him talk about it. It's not like he's, hey, wing it and whatever. He's not like that. But I think he's realizing that there's a bunch of crazy guys out there like Grant that are building their own stuff, and they're like, we might need to tell Grant something. So let's watch this real quick. And but I will say this: if you're interested at all, go to YouTube, just type in Will Prowse, and the 2 videos I'm talking about safety are within the last month or 2. They're really interesting. He goes into a lot of detail. Before I watched his videos, these most recent ones, had you asked me what in your homebrew system do you think you could get hurt on the most, the last thing I would have said would have been the solar panels. I mean, that's what he said. That's the most dangerous thing. And I when I listened to him, I mean, I could really kind of had a chill go down my spine, you know, but if you think about it, you get those panels, like even in my small little system, we already saw it's over 72 volts on a little dinky system. And he's saying over 50 volts will mess you up. I'm saying 26, whatever it is. I don't want to find out. But the thing is, when you get out there and you get that thing set up in the sun and you're plugging stuff in and doing stuff, that there is no on or off switch on this panel. It's producing right away. When it gets some light on it, it's going. So anyway, it was something that really woke me up. And when Dan asked me to do this presentation, I wanted to make sure that I bring up the safety thing. It's not, I don't want anybody to be scared. You know, it's like all of us, you know, we've used electricity our whole lives. We've done, you know, we use sharp knives, we shoot guns, we do things that are dangerous, but we live to tell about it because we learn and we follow proper protocol. One of the things that he mentioned, and I hope you watch it, is he just is saying, look, don't be distracted. When you're working on this stuff, don't let people come in and start talking to you. Don't wear jewelry. He's all the basic things. He's like, focus, pay attention, because he said when you let your guard down and you're not paying attention, that's when that sucker's going to bite you. You know. So again, I'm not. It's like my kids and my grandkids. You know, I want them to know that there's dangerous things in the world they're messing with, but I want them to know without operating in fear. You know, like knowing how to deal with these things. So.
Nobody seen it. I've got my demo and my generator that I'm working on.
Yeah,
so we can show a lot of.
Yeah, I mean, we set it here afterwards and take a look at it. That'd be great. This is the book I referred to. The young guy that we just saw, Will Prowse. I think it was $6, $7, $8 when I bought it. It's been a great resource. It was something that it was a book he published probably 10 years ago on how to build small solar systems. And he saw, I think everybody and their brother that's built a system owns this book. There's great resources in there, like we said, like wire sizes and things like that, how to crimp. And I mean, there's so many things you learn doing a project like this that you're like, oh my gosh, how do you crimp these connectors that are this big around? You know, there's a lot of things that go to it. But check out his book if you want. It's cheap and it's worth it. So wrap things up. We've had a couple questions. Is there anything that you've thought about or anything that you think maybe you'd like to know a little bit more about? Okay. Anything you want to know, feel free to come up to me, and Jim's going to get his gear out and we'll take a look at that. Dan, thank you for this opportunity.
I want you to share a story about what happened when the power went out the last time. You were running everything off. I think that's what you told me about it.
Yeah, no, I mean, the story with the little blue eddy when the power is down, that was the first one. But on the most recent one that we went through, I had my bigger system up and running. And I mean, we just, you know, we're not running the whole house and whatever, but we had enough power to keep, you know, refrigerators and freezers going. I didn't put it into this presentation. I'm actually building one more system right now. And because of that grid down, let me back up 1 second. There's a little gadget that I bought that I had so much fun with, but it's a little watt meter. Anyway, if you're thinking about doing solar power, just get yourself a legal pad, buy one of these little watt meters that you plug into the wall and plug your coffee maker in, plug your refrigerator in, plug your freezer in, and it'll pop up and it'll tell you how much power. So I literally, in my house, anything that's electrical, I know how much power it's running, even weird things. Even things like oscillating fans that have a low, mid, and a high power. You turn on there and you're like, oh, it's only so many watts on this and then this. So you get a feel for it. But then you start kind of doing the math and you start thinking, it's like, okay, well, if the power was down for 3 or 4 days, what would I want to run? And you start adding, you know, highlight the ones that are important and add it up, and then you figure out what you need, you know, that kind of thing. So obviously, if you're counting on solar panels to charge this baby back up, you need to make sure that you oversize your battery capacity so that you've got, you know, 2 or 3 days of extra battery power, so you don't run out before the sun shines and you can get it charged back up. I'm not a purist that says I have to have sun to do the same. If I get into a situation where I need to charge my batteries, I'll grab that generator and throw it out there. But I would rather do as much solar as I could, so that I'm not sending a loud beacon to all my neighbors from 2 miles away that Grant's cooking something or whatever, you know, because they hear, it's like the Walking Dead, to hear the sound. It's like, oh, there's a generator. Let's go see what's going on. But anyway, thank you guys. I really appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.
Showing, solar. This is a nice 200 watt panel. So,
Okay, thank you.
oval. It,
Good. Thank you.
puts out 200 watt. Weighs 16 pounds. Out all night. And that'll run 10 amp cube at 12 volts.
That's a nice panel there.
It weighs 16 pounds. I got this for my RV that I can also use. doing radio work. And all the cables are right here, all tied in. And you can see that the wire here is like 10 gauge. This particular model has adapters for various other solar generators, include that in your regular battery. I like to tinker. So I make my own solar generator. But or any other instance for connector, it goes down into this. Wire. I make sure the current coming in for properly aligned. These meters down here give me the voltage, the current coming out of the solar. I started putting in two and realized that one is enough. So I'm going to use that for something else. Use block. Want to make sure everything's used. Over here, I've got a basically a central with an on-off switch. A meter to tell me that I'm generating at least 12 volts. What goes out, and a set of power poles to go to my equipment. Got a cigarette lighter output here if I want to plug it into the car. I can charge it from the car, or I can charge it from the solar panel or AC. Plug AC into this thing. There's a charger. Haven't nailed it down yet. But a little charger to keep the batteries charged up if you have AC available. Watt converter. That's a full sine wave converter modified for running computers or blocks or whatever. That's 300 watts, which is to turn on the various sources for charging, and then the output, of course, comes out of there. And all these parts are available from Amazon. The box I have is a regular toolbox. And I've got a lithium-ion battery to use it